A new country is about to emerge on the world map, or so it seems. And guess who's pushing for it? Donald Trump. Yes, the US might soon recognize a breakaway region of Somalia called Somaliland as the world's newest country. But why would the US get involved in this region? And how does China factor into this? Let's break it down. As soon as Donald Trump becomes president, the global media is reporting that a new country close to India, relatively speaking, will be declared in Africa. Although the United Nations does not recognize this country, the US under Donald Trump will fully support this new country. You will see many articles being published on this. For example, you can see here, breakaway Somaliland may get Trump push for recognition as the world's newest country. Trump is expected to support this country, and the global map is about to change significantly. And this is not a prediction, rather it's a spoiler. To understand this, let's talk about Somalia, a country in the strategically important Horn of Africa. After hearing the name Somalia, the question may arise is, Somalia, this is a country infamous for piracy and poverty and now is about to be divided with Trump's support, but what's the reason? Let me explain. Somalia sits close to vital trade routes that connect the Indian Ocean to the Mediterranean via the Suez Canal. But Somalia isn't just about geography, it's about global power games. This region is a chessboard for superpowers like the US and China. Years ago, the US realized that the African region known as the Horn of Africa, where countries like Djibouti, Somalia, and Ethiopia are located, holds strategic importance. Djibouti, by the way, is famous for its military bases. Countries like France, Japan, the US, and China have their military bases in Djibouti. The Djibouti government primarily earns revenue by leasing its land for military bases. The US has already established its base in Djibouti, but China has built one too. The US understood that to properly checkmate China in the Arabian Sea, it is crucial to gain strong military access in Somalia. This is the access that no other country has. And according to the US naval chief, 60% of the US Navy is currently deployed its fleet in the Indo-Pacific. Now let's talk about Somaliland. Somaliland is a region in northern Somalia that declared independence in 1991. It operates with its own government, military, and currency. But here's the catch. Despite its stability compared to the rest of Somalia, no major country officially recognizes Somaliland. And even United Nations too. That's where Trump comes in. The US might soon break this status quo. Why? Because supporting Somaliland could serve America's interests against China. Somaliland swore in its new president today after last month's election. During this time, the United States ambassador to Mogadishu, the capital city of Somalia, has congratulated the new government of the self-declared Republic of Somaliland, stating, "You have many friends in the international community," and calling Hush Somaliland a true democracy, not only for Africa but for the entire world. You can see in the video.
So I've been asked to speak on behalf of the entire diplomatic service, diplomatic corps here in Somaliland. And I know and I can convey to you on their behalf, I am sure, their warmest congratulations as well. You have many friends in the international community. We were very attentive, very focused on the events of the last month, and we observed, I think, one of the best examples of democracy in action on November 13th. The people of Somaliland have given an example not only to this region, but to Africa and the world of a true democracy.
This is the big move by the administration towards the America's policy.
We are truly proud to be your friend, your partner. We have been for a long, long time, not only the United States, but many other countries besides. And we will be by your side for the future. We want to work together with all of the parties and certainly the new administration under Dr. Iro. Please work with us, talk with us, tell us what your hopes and dreams are so that we can be part of your future as well.
Now let's talk about the China factor. Here's where the global power struggle gets intense. While the US wants to back a breakaway Somaliland, China supports a united Somalia. Why? Because China is already building strong relations with Somalia, aiming for military access in this strategic region. So, if Somaliland becomes independent with US support, China's influence could take a hit. This move would help the US checkmate China in the Arabian Sea. The US has now decided to support this breakaway region, which is not recognized by the United Nations, India, China, or Russia. Donald Trump is expected to start supporting this very soon. Articles like, "A Trump White House talks set to recognize the world's newest country" confirm this shift. The US's motive here is clear: strengthening its naval presence in the Indo-Pacific to challenge China and maintain its dominance as the world's superpower. If you ask, will this really possible? And will the US accept the division of a country? This is nothing new. Remember the famous video of former President Wesley Clark, where he stated that the US had a target list of 7 countries to take down in the coming years. Those countries were Iraq, Syria, Lebanon, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, and finally Iran.
Right after 9/11, about 10 days after 9/11, I went through the Pentagon and I saw Secretary Rumsfeld and Deputy Secretary Wolfowitz. I went downstairs just to say hello to some of the people on the Joint Staff who used to work for me, and one of the generals called me in. He said, "Sir, you got to come in. You got to come in and talk to me a second." I said, "Well, you're too busy." He said, "No." He says, "We've made the decision. We're going to war with Iraq." This was on or about the 20th of September. I said, "We're going to war with Iraq. Why?" He said, "I don't know." He said, "I guess they don't know what else to do." So I said, "Well, did they find some information connecting Saddam to Al-Qaeda?" He said, No. He says, "There's nothing new that way. They just made the decision to go to war with Iraq." He said, "I guess it's like we don't know what to do about terrorists, but we've got a good military and we can take down governments." And he said, "I guess if the only tool you have is a hammer, every problem has to look like a nail." So I came back to see him a few weeks later, and by that time we were bombing in Afghanistan. I said, "Are we still going to war with Iraq?" And he said, "Oh, it's worse than that." He said, he reached over on his desk, he picked up a piece of paper, and he said, I just got this down from upstairs," meaning the Secretary of Defense's office today, and he said, "This is a memo that describes how we're going to take out 7 countries in 5 years, starting with Iraq and then Syria, Lebanon, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, and finishing off Iran."
We already know what happened to Iraq and Libya. Syria is now unstable, and Israel has started capturing Syrian territories. Sudan has already been divided into South Sudan and became a pro-US country. Now, it's Somalia's turn. Donald Trump will soon support the division of Somalia, aligning with the US's grand geopolitical strategy. This strategy will remain intact regardless of who becomes the president, whether Trump, Biden, or even someone else. There might be delays, but the ultimate outcome will not change. Somalia, already a very poor country, will face further instability with this division. The population of Somalia is approximately 18 million, and its capital is Mogadishu. Speaking from India's perspective, the Indian government does not recognize Somaliland as a separate country. China, on the other hand, has openly declared its support for Somalia's territorial integrity, hoping to secure a military base there in the future. Now you might ask, who should we support? If China builds a military base here, it would be disastrous. If we supports the division, it sets a wrong precedent. This is a tough decision, a classic case of being caught between a rock and a hard place. Either way, problems in Somalia are about to increase. Donald Trump, following the Wesley Clark list, will likely support this division. So, what's next? If Trump returns to power, the US might officially recognize Somaliland. That would force other US allies, like Taiwan and Japan, to follow suit. But here's the big question: is this about freedom and democracy as the US claims, or is it simply about military strategy? The US media will also push the narrative of freedom and democracy, claiming that Somaliland will be a country of free speech and democracy. This argument seems ironic because if democracy were the real criterion, then why does the US maintain such strong relations with countries like Saudi Arabia? Only time will tell the answer to all the questions. But one thing is clear: Somalia and Somaliland will be at the center of global headlines very soon. If anything happens in the future, I will make the updated video on that. And before that, what do you think? Should Somaliland be recognized as a separate country? Or will this lead to more chaos? Let us know your thoughts in the comments.